All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to the Wednesday, August 14th, 2024 Finance Executive Committee meeting. I'm Alex Wan, Vice Chair of the committee. Howard Shook is out and will be returning next week, so I'm going to be leading the meeting in his stead. Joined by my colleague to my left, Councilmember Marcy Collier-Overstreet. Councilmember Jason Winston is here, and I know that we've got a couple of council members that are wrapping up a different meeting in one of the conference rooms, but we're going to, there's Councilmember Hillis. With that, we constitute a quorum. The meeting is now officially called to order. We're joined by Dustin Hillis as well. Okay, first item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Hillis, seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
One moment. The vote is open.
I know.
Vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. Agenda is adopted. Next item is approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion. By Winston, second by Hillis.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. That takes us to public comment. We have some folks signed up today. I'll go ahead and call up Nate Bailey. As he's walking up, I'll remind everybody that you have 3 minutes, and you'll see timers on the screens counting backwards. As the time approaches 0, I'll ask that you conclude your remarks as soon as possible. So with that, I will hand it over to Nate Bailey. You have the floor.
Hey, afternoon, everyone. Nate Bailey, President of Atlanta Professional Firefighters. I'm here on behalf of all the Atlanta firefighters. It's a day of many thanks. I want to thank you all for supporting the pension legislation. That's going to be huge for our firefighters. It's very rare for a city to go back to a defined benefit. When they do it, it usually takes a heavy lift. They have to do public campaigns, billboards. All we had to do was ask the administration, and huge thanks to the CFO. He's been involved with this from the beginning, and just a huge part of it. Our pension board members, we want to thank them, and also Mayor Dickens. We wouldn't have been able to do it without the mayor supporting these changes. Also, the pay and compensation, the new recruit pay is going to be huge for our recruitment to bring in those new recruits, and also the starting salary after they graduate from recruit school. So we want to thank you all for that, and it's been a heavy lift. You know, when we first came to public comment, when this administration took over, we had a long list, and the administration has been knocking those items off the list: pay, pension, equipment, public safety training center, our SCBA's new equipment, boats, engines, trucks, new stations with the bond referendum, millions and millions of dollars. I think the last time it was over $100 million total investment by the administration. I want to thank you all for that. There's just a few other policies that we want to work on, and we can get to those policies with the collective bargaining process. That's kind of the last thing on our list, and we're asking you all and the administration for help to complete that process. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bailey. Next up is Tyler Nelson.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Tyler Nelson, the president of Progressive Firefighters of Georgia Labor Organization. I'm here today on behalf of our dedicated firefighters and our fire department employees to express our deep gratitude for the recent developments that will greatly benefit our department and the citizens of our city. First and foremost, I want to extend a heartfelt thanks to the mayor, the CFO, CEO, Human Resources team, City Council, and the Fire Chief for everyone's consistent commitment to improving the working conditions and lives of our firefighters. The pay raises, the restoration of our pension, the acquisition of new equipment, and the construction of new fire stations symbolizes your recognition of the vital role that our firefighters play in ensuring the safety and well-being of our community. I want you all to know that the good news is spreading quickly within our fire department, and there's a great sense of renewed energy and optimism among our personnel. They are very encouraged by these decisions that you all are producing and excited about the future of our fire department. As we move forward, Progressive Firefighters of Georgia looks forward to continuing our positive and productive relationship with city officials. We are committed to maintaining and enhancing the camaraderie within the fire department and to ensuring that our members are always equipped to serve the public with excellence. Thank you for your time, leadership, and your continued support of the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Next up, we have Tracy Thornhill.
Good afternoon. My name is Tracy Thornhill, Executive Director of ASME Local 1644. I'm here today to talk about the compression of the grades. I just want you to know that we have 3,400 members, 18 and below. And I don't want to lose not one of those. I don't want not one of those people to go and lose their civil service rights because we're doing some compression. I brought it up in the meeting, but when this is over with, and first off, let me thank the mayor for doing a complete pay and class study. I've been trying to get this done since 2012. I'm sure Ms. Packnott will tell you the same thing. Been trying to get it done. We got it done, but now we got some more obstacles. We got to make sure that the people that we protect and have their civil service rights, we want them to keep their civil service rights. We don't want to lose not one. When I say not one, I'm talking about not one. I need all of them to be classified. So I know you guys may be working on something to get it done and make sure it's right, but we're going from grade 33 all the way down to 21. So it's going to be a lot of compression in there, and we don't want it to get mixed up. We want to keep that number in mind, 3,400 people. If it's 24, you've done something wrong. If it's 31, you've done something wrong. I need 3,400 of them with their civil service rights. We will not let this be like other jurisdictions where the people have no civil service rights. This is one of the last things that the city of Atlanta have that a lot of jurisdictions don't have is civil service rights. And we do not, I repeat, we do not want to let that go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thornhill. Next up, we have Gina Pagnotta. Pagnotta, I sign up list that you've got a number of folks that have, want to donate your time. Actually, it's our practice committee donated time. Each person can speak for their 3 minutes, but you'll have 3 minutes, and if the other two would like
You
to.
always say that, but that's okay. I'm used to it.
That's how we've been doing
You know, actually, it's not going to take me that long.
All right, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. I'm Gina Pagnotta, and I am the president of PACE. I'm also a national vice president of NAGE, Local R550, and I want to speak on about the comp and pay. I want to send kudos out to the mayor, the COO, the deputy COO, and the HR team. We did meet with them. I appreciate their acknowledgement in this comp and pay that the union's feedback. They did take some of our feedback. They did go back and enhance what we asked. And we did ask for this comp and pay study. But I'm going to get the elephant out the room because you know that's how I am. I'm not thoroughly convinced and satisfied to my understanding of this comp and pay. I met with them several times. I got the presentation that they were going to present with you, which has some more in-depth information that I had the privy to read last night. However, it does compress classifications. It does compress grades. This is not what we expected the union. What we expected was to see what these employees were doing at this current rate, if they were under or overpaid, how we were going to compensate the underage and keep minimum with the change the salary structure for the other ones. What it happens is now that we don't know, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Thornhill talked about grades below 18 and below is his primary community of interest. Some of those annexes belongs to PACE, but the majority 19 and above to grade 30 is our community of interest. And what it sounds like to me, which I was told it was not going to happen, that this is a way to make everyone unclassified. Because of the way your structures, I do not see how once you compress a certain amount of structures and classifications, that's going to turn around and you're not going to still have salary compression and classified and crossovers as well. I'm still not satisfied with my understanding to be able to deliver that to my community of interest. And they have a lot of employees right now that's been calling, and I'm sure they're watching and want to know what this is about. out. Everybody's on pins and needles. And we must make a comprehensive, thorough investigation on this to make sure everyone is a win-win here. I don't see it exactly yet. I'm there. I appreciate it. But this union is not real satisfied yet because the main piece that I need to be comfortable with has not been presented. And that's who is going to be in these classifications and what is my community of interest and who's going to get money and who's not. Not the names, but the classifications. I have not got that yet, and I won't rest and be settled until I receive it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pagnotta. I have, it looks like Kwawanza. Yes, come on, you have the floor.
Good afternoon. I'm Kwanzaa Cotton Waters. I know what you said, we can't yield our time, but I would like to yield my time to Ms. Pagnotta. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Next up is Yvette White. Okay, all right, thank you. That's all we have in terms of folks signed up for public comment, so I'll go ahead and close that section out. Thank you for your feedback. Folks might want to go ahead and stay because I'm going to jump on the agenda. We are going to take the class and comp paper first if you want to stay in here for that presentation. Colleagues, because of some timing and schedules of some folks, we are going to do that first, and then I need to take 2 finance papers after that before we jump into presentation. So with your indulgence, I'll go ahead and pull up item number 33 and held, which is 24-01304. We do have a substitute that does not change the caption, so I'll read that in and then make the motion to bring the substitute forward. It's an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone to amend Chapter 114, Personnel, Article 4, Classification Plan of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, to repeal the classification and compensation plan and the current sworn classification and compensation structure, to adopt a new classification and compensation plan effective January 1, 2025, so as to implement new pay grades, title adjustments for certain classifications, and a new tier grade design for police and fire, to implement a realignment of all positions within their respective new pay grade and tier and time and rank for police and fire, to bring certain employees to the minimum salary of their new assigned pay grade, and to administer salary adjustments to certain employees as recommended in the classification and compensation studies conducted by Evergreen Solutions, LLC, and Mercer US, LLC, to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to make any budget amendments, operating transfers, or take other actions necessary to implement the terms of this ordinance and for other purposes. I'll move to bring the substitute forward. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Hillis. Let's open that vote.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before us. COO Burks, I'm going to turn the floor over to you for the presentation on this paper. And we are joined by Councilmember Byron Amos.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Finance Executive Committee. LaShondra Burks, Chief Operating Officer for the City of Atlanta. First, just want to say thank you for the opportunity to come and present to you all today as it relates to the final recommendations for the classification and compensation study. Ms. Merlandi Vincent will actually do the presentation, but I also know that we have not had an opportunity to formally introduce you to the Interim Commissioner of Human Resources, so I also wanted to take an opportunity to do that and just allow Mr. Blackburn to give a little bit about himself, even though he's been with the city for some time. And then he will then turn it over to Ms. Vincent, who will do the presentation, and we'll be around, of course, for any question and answers. I can tell you that I appreciate the comments that we heard previously from all of our union representation, and I want to thank them for the time that they have spent with us during this process. Also want to say that you will probably hear later, we heard the concerns loud and clear around the classifications and unclassified versus classified, and that is something we are working with legal on, and we'll have an answer to that and report back to the unions in short order. However, we do not have that information yet today, so I just wanted to make that clear, but want to again thank them for the time that they have spent with us several times, for all of our union representatives. So with that, I will turn it over to Interim Commissioner Blackburn, who will then introduce Ms. Merlandi Vincent, who is our Director of Compensation, and want to give a huge thanks to the team, to Deputy COO Jason Ingram, to the HR Interim Commissioner. When he came in, I said, this is baptism by fire. We've got to get this one done. And also to Ms. Vincent, who has been working on this project for almost a year and 8 months now. So want to thank her for her steadfastness and her commitment to getting us to this point. So with that, Commissioner Blackburn.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chief Burks. I am Calvin Blackburn. Well, first let me start off to Vice Chair Juan, CFO Bala, other members of the Finance and Executive Committee. I am Calvin Blackburn. I have the pleasure of serving as the Interim Commissioner for Department of Human Resources. Glad to be here today. Prior to taking this position, I served in the Department of Law as most recently the Division Chief of Litigation. I've been with the city for almost 5 years now and excited about the opportunity to join DHR as Interim Commissioner. Been there now for about 2 weeks and I've been welcomed with open arms, and we have a great number of professionals over there, so I'm glad to work with them. And want to move forward now with telling you how excited we are in DHR to present the final report and overview for the classification and compensation study along with the city's compensation enhancements. We think this is a great report. We think it will be of great benefit to the employees for the city of Atlanta. And I wanted to bring forward our compensation director, Ms. Merlandi Vincent, who I think you've heard for about 18 months now, has been working on this matter. Ms. Vincent is going to give an excellent report. She's here to answer any questions you may have. And I asked the Finance and Executive Committee after that presentation, after all your questions are answered, we will request that you make a favorable recommendation to move this forward to the City Council. Thank you, and I'll turn it over now to our Compensation Director, Ms. Vincent.
Thank you. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Merlandi Vincent, Compensation Director for Department of Human Resources. We're here at the final stage of the study implementation. I will go over the final report for both Evergreen Consultants and Mercer. Okay, so I'll do a brief executive overview. So where we started, we haven't had a study in over 10 years. Many of the positions have been changed sporadically throughout the year when necessary. We've also had to deal with many inequities and compression issues. We've also had to face a very competitive marketplace since the pandemic. So the objective of the studies for both of them were to make sure that we were properly aligned with the organizational goals, make sure that there's equity and fairness, make sure that we're competitive in the labor market, make sure that we have talent retention and engagement with our employees, and we wanted to make sure that we stay compliant with labor laws. So the study methodology for both studies were to review our existing compensation plan, to gather survey data, so they compared us to over 30 agencies, both public and private sector. They evaluated all of our classification positions. They relied on the employee information, so the JATs and the focus groups that were scheduled last year. They also did one-on-one interviews with our commissioners, our department heads. So they took back those feedback. They made sure that they took those in consideration with the final recommendations, which is where we are now. So I'll start off with the Evergreen study first. This will be your general employees and corrections. Final recommendation, we have some title adjustments. They did look at FLSA just to make sure that our classifications were properly classified, exempt and non-exempt. They did create new pay plans for us. We have a new starting minimum at $17.50 for your full-time employees. They adjusted pay grades to make sure that it properly aligns with the market, to make sure that we're more competitive. They aligned our positions into this new pay structure. They used what's called a hybrid parity, which I'll explain later on in the slides, just to cover and to prevent compression issues. They also looked at salary adjustments, which I will go over as well. So starting with the general pay grades, as the unions mentioned, the pay grades have changed. So if you can see a current and a new side by side, you'll see we had a few pay grades that have collapsed. So we're starting much higher in the minimum and much higher in the maximum. So employees are starting higher and they have more room to grow in their pay ranges. So they wanted to make sure that we stay competitive in comparisons to our agencies. This is your executive pay plans. So keeping 4 pay grades for your executives. Not much increases, but slight increases in the minimum and the maximum. Then you have your seasonal and your other pay plans. No changes with the council member grades, mayor grades, or the council assistants, but we do have what's called an ungraded. And this will be for your council assistants, but also for any future classifications we want to create to be ungraded. So giving you more flexibility. This is our corrections pay grades, and you'll see that we added some levels. You'll also see that we created salary ranges for a lot of those positions versus what they are now, one set salary base. So we wanted to give employees room to grow, an opportunity to get increases and get promotions. And you'll see this included in the presentation attachment. So this is a deep detail of the pay grade changes, some title changes that have occurred. You also see some exemption changes, EEO 4 category changes, so you'll see that included in the presentation attachment. This will also be included in the ordinance as well. The other thing that we've incorporated with this new pay plan are career bands. So this is an opportunity to create career ladders to show employee career progressions. This is also a stepping stone to creating a succession planning in the future. So this is just an added opportunity that they've created for us with this new pay plan. All right, with the hybrid parity, so this is what Evergreen created to determine salary adjustments. So the hybrid parity includes realigning employees to the minimum of their new salary range if they fall below. It also looks at their hire years, which is how long they've been with the city. They looked at how long the employee have been in their classification. So they're giving full credit for your class years, half credit for how long you've been with the city to determine your hybrid years. And with that calculation, they placed employees in their new salary range and provided increases based on where they should be. So essentially looking at your tenure and determining where you should be in your salary ranges. And you'll see on the presentation, these are real employee examples of increases that we get. And there are certain situations where if their salary is higher than the hybrid years, then they would not get an increase. All right, with the Mercer study, so this is your police and fire. So with their final recommendations, same as the other study, they recommended new tiers. We're still following the years in rank progressions in between ranks. There'll be percentage increases between those. You'll also see some adjustments for those individual tiers. We're aligning those employees into their new tier bases as part of the implementation. So starting with police tiers first, you'll see with the recruit, they're going from 54 to 60. Officers are starting at 61 and maxing out at 82. You also see with the investigators, they're maxing out at 92 with 8 tiers versus their current tiers of 11 at 90. So you'll see there's percentage increases in between those tiers. Moving on to senior officers, the same with the investigators, starting at 73 and maxing out at 92. You also see with your police sergeant, they added 2 additional tiers, starting at 93 and maxing out at 107. There's police lieutenant, keeping the years the same, but slight percentage increases with the 3 tiers. With police captain, police major, you'll see from the annual base, now we're moving towards a salary range. Same with your police deputy chief, you're moving from one annual base to now a salary range. So again, for those 3 classifications, they have the opportunity to for increases. You'll also see an increase for your police chief assistant and a slight increase for your police chief. Moving on to fire, you'll see with the recruits, they're going from 48,000 to 54. For firefighter, they've added tiers, so more opportunities for them to progress a little bit faster through the tiers, even though it's gone up to 10. They're starting at 58 and maxing out at 68. You also see the same thing with your fire command. They've added more tiers, more room to grow, moving through the tiers a little bit faster than before. Same for your fire sergeant as well. They've added a few more tiers. They're moving through the ranges, moving to the tiers faster than they were before. And you'll see with the fire lieutenant, same thing. They've added 2 more tiers, starting at 76, so a slight adjustment, but maxing out at 83. Fire captain, 85 to 103. Your fire battalion, 115 to 127. Keeping the 3-tier structure with the 4 years in between tiers. And your remaining classifications, fire section chief, fire assistant chief, fire deputy chief, first deputy fire chief, and fire chief. Okay. So with the city compensation enhancement, so we met with the unions back in June. They provided us with a lot of feedback. We wanted to take that back with us. We dedicated, I would say, a month of working with finance to look at something additional we can incorporate with the compensation study. So that way we're moving on with a compensation enhancement. So that would be a 2% adjustment. This will be in lieu of a COLA for January. The 2% adjustment will be given to employees that would not receive an increase due to the hybrid pay that I mentioned previously. And also your employees that were set to go in phase 2 of the study implementation. And also it's giving a 2% just to make sure that anyone who was getting less than 2%, we made sure that we covered those employees as well. So this is from the previous slide of the compensation enhancement. So you can see there with the representative 2 example, that employee was only getting a 0.5% increase, but with the 2% enhancement, we're giving them a 1.5 added on. And then the example with the financial analyst 2, your employees that would not have gotten an increase due to the study, we're giving them a 2%. Here's the impact analysis that finance put together. So the overall cost of the study implementation plus a 2% enhancement. So this is by department. You also see there's some attachments included in your presentation, and more detailed. I believe you'll see grade by level, you'll see grade by fund, you'll see department by fund. This is the same impact analysis for your police. So the ones highlighted there are the 4 ranks that will be in phase 1 implementation. You also see in the 2% enhancement column, there were some officers identified that were not going to get at least a 2% that will receive a 2%. You also see that the remaining ranks will get a 2% in January as well. Same thing for your fire. The 4 ranks that are highlighted here will be in phase 1. We did identify some firefighters that were going to get less than a 2%, and we're going to go ahead and give them that 2%. And your remaining ranks will get a 2% in January. Same thing for your corrections. The ones highlighted will be part of phase 1, and the remaining ranks will get their 2% enhancement. And we have identified a few employees that would have gotten less than 2% that will get a 2% with the implementation. So this slide kind of provides an overview of the mayor's employee investments in the past 3 years. So just a reminder of all the initiatives that have taken place. We've had COLA in the past 2 years. We've had many initiatives with public safety. We've done many things with police, the take-home vehicles, the retention bonus, with fire, the apparatus and equipment. We have the training facility soon to open. We've done many classification amendments, pay adjustments with personnel paper actions. We've had our health benefits remain flat for over 2 years. We had the 412 premiums, the pension enhancements soon to come, and then, of course, the study implementation. So this slide is just an overview of all of the adjustments that will occur January 1st. So these will be all of your ranks. Grade 19 and below will be included in phase 1. The 2% enhancement that I mentioned earlier for your employees that were not going to get an increase with the study, but will now get that 2% increase. And also a 2% increase for the employees that were set for phase 2. And also wanted to make note on that slide there for your airport employees. They did receive adjustments back in July, the $4.50 per hour increase. We did do analysis. We did see that some employees were still below what the Evergreen study recommended, so those employees will get the 2% enhancement. And that includes your apprentice. This is your phase 2 and 3 adjustments. So these are your remaining ranks as well as your grade 20 and above employees. Keeping in mind with the 2% enhancement, since we're doing that up front now in phase 1, we are hoping that employees will be slotted where they need to be. Of course, after phase 1 implementation have been done, we will do an analysis just to make sure everyone is placed to where they need to be. So we do commit to try and do these studies every 3 to 5 years. We want to make sure that we don't lag in the market. We want to make sure that we stay competitive. We want to make sure that we maintain this new pay structure moving forward. So this is our commitment to try to do these studies every 3 to 5 years. So our next step is to hopefully get the approval on August 19th. We will be sending out FAQ documents the next day citywide, gives employees a detailed explanation of everything that's will be with the implementation. We will send employees individual employee letters that will be mailed to them. So these letters will tell the employee if they had a classification title change, it will list it. It will tell them what the pay grade changes were. It will let them know what their salary adjustments are, and it will mention the 2% enhancement. So that's set for September. We also have new job descriptions. So we'll be working with the departments to review those job descriptions and get those finalized. And then January 2025 will be phase 1 implementation. And I just want to highlight with this timeline the importance, the time that HRIS and Deloitte will need to do system configuration and testing with all these new changes in the system. So this timeline is very imperative to make that January 1st date. Questions and answers.
So, COO Burke, I don't know if you have any final closing remarks before I open it up to questions for your team.
No, sir. We'll take question and answers. Thank you, then.
All right. I had a feeling she was going to do that. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Councilmember Overstreet.
First of all, I want to thank you for going over this presentation with each of us beforehand, especially, slide by slide, every line item, and I appreciate that. We got a question today that's totally new that wasn't brought to me before today, so I would have asked you during presentation time had I known. But I do think that it's worth a conversation. I think we do need to understand those numbers as well. First of all, I think you did share this with us, but let's talk about what's classified position versus non-classified.
Correct. So your classified are your grades 19 and below. Unclassified is 20 and above. That has come up a few times with the unions, as they expressed today, the concern with that. And we did have a sit down with them, with the vendor as well, to explain why they recommended changing the pay grades and what their thought process was behind it. So we did have that deep dive discussions with the unions about that. We are working with law. We sent them what the changes were. We will be working with them to find that separation of what the new unclassified and classified would be. So that's the work that we're going to be working on now
Okay.
with law.
So the question specifically, and I would like for you to share this information with council as soon as you know.
Yeah.
Was of the 3,400 affected employees, how many would be affected with the compression of those grades?
So when they mean compression, it's not salary compressions. Like, we're not going to deal with employee compression issues. So the grades have condensed, but the salary ranges are wider. I do understand with the 304 employees, there's a concern of where they should be slotted in. And we would have to look at that analysis to go by position to see where they have fallen. Because with the study, you know, they only looked at how competitive that classification is with the other agencies. So if their salary ranges went up to like 10, where they're starting at 60 to 100, that's due to the type of job duties that the employee is doing, and they want to make sure that we, you know, reward that employee for the type of duties that they're doing. So I understand the concern, and we've had these grades for such a long time, and now we're moving into new grades, so I understand the concern. But we just give us that time so that we can work that out with the unions. Yeah.
So, granted, I definitely, you know, would like to be informed on those types of details.
Yes.
But the work that you all have poured into this is very evident, and I really appreciate all of the research. Like, I know that it took so long.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, this is going on too long. Like, this can't be happening this entire time. And checking in, and it was, for sure it was. And now we're here. I also want to, well, first of all, I'm going to give everybody else another chance, because I have one more question, but I want to let everyone else ask first. I'll be back.
All right, sounds good. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Just wanted to correct one, or ask for clarification on one piece to piggyback off of Councilmember Overstreet. I think it was 19, and I think at 19 and above are unclassified. It's not 19 and below.
Oh, I switched it, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted clarification on that for myself, but
Yes.
I'll go ahead and let Councilmember Winston, and I'll circle back.
Member Winston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And one, just thank you and HR Commissioner, interim HR Commissioner, for presentation for council members. Like, you know, Councilmember Overstreet likes to just reiterate that this is not the first time we've seen this, so we've all had an opportunity to kind of pour over it and ask one-on-one questions. I did want to just kind of talk about the financial impact on the budget, get the CFO to kind of weigh in on that. Very supportive of this, but also just wanted to just kind of make sure we discuss that account in a public forum.
Yeah. So we were fortunate enough to work with the Human Resources Department throughout this entire process. And even during our budget development process, we were able to see what the budgetary impacts would have been and have allotted the necessary budget to implement the classification. The additional ask that was brought to us by the administration was, in addition to the recommendations, what additional considerations could be made. We went back and we worked diligently with the HR team. And I want to give a kudos to Ms. Vanessa Malcolm, who worked very hard on getting that information in a short, tight window to the HR team. And that's where we came with the option of also doing the 2% enhancement for those who weren't going to see a benefit from the pay and class study because they were already compensated appropriately or otherwise, and also allow for, since it's being phased in 2 years, year 1 and year 2, not having everybody wait for year 2 to be compensated and allow some of that compensation to move now was a benefit that the administration wanted to support as well too. So looking at it in total, we do have enough capacity to take that on and move with that approach. It helps us get through the implementation process a little bit faster. And I will say there's also a lot of benefits to the proposed grade structure. The proposed grade structure aligns with our peers much better, so that we'll know when we're hiring from other municipalities and other agencies have a better comparable grade structure that they're using. Ours, quite frankly, had too many grades, right? From all the way up to grade 30-something grades was really too high and narrow. So when somebody gets in a grade band, they don't have a lot of room to grow within their current job. They would have to essentially rely on a promotion before they can grow in their current job. And I think that's a huge benefit to employees, especially employees who don't necessarily want to grow through a career progression of advancement and promotion, but love the job that they do and want to continue doing it for a very long time. That's a very, positive attribute to the proposed grade structure. With regards to where the unclassified and classification line delineates, we're going to work closely with HR on that. I know there's a lot of Fair Labor Standard Act kind of information that they'll have to assess and model kind of into where we lie. But overall, I think the job classifications and the job duties are going to drive who should be classified versus unclassified, not necessarily a salary or a grade or a specific person. So we need to be careful about what a classified employee means. It's not necessarily, it's a classification of a job that should be protected and should have the support of the Civil Service Board and other functions of classifications, including the type of retirement systems they're into as well.
Okay, so it sounds like in the collaboration with the finance department, we were able to identify where we were able to afford the 2% for
Yes.
the other employees that were not part of the study.
Yes.
But also seems like that might have been the impetus for also doing this on a calendar year versus a fiscal year calendar. I'm just curious on that as well.
Yeah, so we have been utilizing the calendar year model for the last couple of years. The calendar year model helps us in many different aspects. It allows us to plan better. It allows us to work with HRIS and Oracle and do the necessary upgrades when we have proposals that come in June for a budget or whatever, so that we have time to work on it. I know speaking to Fire and other people who coordinate closely with the Oracle system, it's really important to make sure that the recommendations that come out of this paper get modeled and accurately reflected into our ERP systems. And that takes a lot of coding and coordination to make sure that, A plus B is equaling C. It just takes some.
Thank you.
I want to jump in and lean into a couple of things that the Councilmember Winston brought up. First off, in terms of the financial impact for half a year, again, on the slide, it shows roughly $11 million, correct? And that's for the change for phase one for half a year. Correct? Page
Correct,
29.
including public safety and.
Yeah. So I'm first off, I want to affirm that we had set aside some funding in non-departmental just to make sure we had set aside funds to cover this, and I can't remember how much we had put in there.
We set aside for the general fund $10 million in the general fund budget. That $11 million half year, including public safeties, inclusive of other funds as well too.
So we're well covered.
We're well covered.
Good. Okay, that's question number one. Question number two then is that, so if this had been a full year, I just want to extrapolate this out, 22 million plus the 20 million in terms of the pension reform enhancement. So as we look to FY26, I just want to make sure that everyone recognizes that we've already baked in a $40 million increase into the FY26 budget, but you're going to have phase two of this implementation. We haven't priced that out yet, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I just want to be mindful of the investment that the administration is making, but also that as we are getting ready at the beginning of 2025, that we've already got that in our minds in terms of budget capacity that's now going to be reduced from what we have been talking about. I also want to affirm that the public comment earlier about this is a way to get everybody to be not unclassified instead of classified is just wholesale false.
It's false.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So
Yes.
just please be reassured that while that's still being worked out,
Yes.
it is false. But I do ask, all of us are going to ask that when y'all figure out what that line is drawn, that is communicated with the employee groups as soon as possible, because they're keenly interested in that. And then finally, I want to revisit compression. So compression, in my mind, the way I define it, I want to make sure we're using that word the same way, is that in a department or office, if I am supervising somebody and they are a direct report to me, compression is if the person reporting to me is making more than me or at a higher grade than me.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. And so if I'm looking at your timeline, if we approve this, there's that time between August 20th and September before the individual letters are mailed out to each employee. That's when y'all are going to go through and look person by person, department by department, to make sure that's not happening.
Correct. And we'll do it again by December because we have to refresh the data to do the upload in January. So we have to refresh the data again.
Okay, because I think, I mean, I understand the concern being raised is because we have fewer levels, the risk of compression is higher. But what I'm hearing is that because the salary ranges are broader within each one, and y'all are looking at kind of the way the reporting structure as well as the job responsibilities and duties, that's how we're going to prevent problems from the fewer grade levels.
Right. And the consultants did that as well. I mean, they looked at the reporting structure. They looked at the salary ranges, and the hybrid parity, like I mentioned before, is that method that they use to address those compression issues.
Okay. All right. So, that August 20th to September period is going to be real important. And,
Yes.
please communicate with the union and employee representatives, and then also let us know in this committee. I would say, as y'all are about to roll out the individual letters, I would appreciate just coming back and saying, hey, we made sure all the compression issues were done and we're about to roll out.
Okay. We will do that.
All right. I'll keep going. Councilmember Overstreet.
Thank you. So I appreciate that because it was important to me that we didn't conflate any of the issues. This is so important that I didn't want to add this question to the compression question. I want to make sure that we're super clear about everything. So I wanted to complete that conversation first. My next question, I want to dive into how we're going to tee up the minimum, the middle, and the max on each of the tiers for our chiefs and the deputy chiefs. I want to talk about that a little more because that's going to be a conversation for sure, especially when you're talking about compression and those in different groups having different salary amounts that appear to be the same everything, and they're probably not. So let's talk a little bit about that. If we have a slide, this may be a good time to, I'm using the little leaflet, so I don't know where it is, and I pulled out the separate leaflets because I like how, I'm gonna give Director Santana credit for this. Thank you for the separate leaflets for the different things. But I don't know which.
So which classification specifically? Is it?
Any, because all of them that are listed that says, okay, so like fire deputy chief. No, excuse me. Yeah, first fire deputy chief or fire chief, and there's the minimum tier, the middle tier, and the max tier.
Oh, right, the salary ranges. Okay.
Yeah. Can we pull that slide up? I just want to make sure we discuss what we're planning to, how we're planning to address this, or what we already have in place, because that's going to be a question for sure. How do we decide, which one of these salaries someone's receiving?
Correct. And we had that conversation with the unions. That was a question that they brought up. We will work with the chief on putting together a policy or procedure on how we move those employees through that salary range. I also met with the HRBP over public safety. We went through this as well. They will be working with that team and myself to create a policy, a procedure. We'll get that approved with the chief. We'll show that with the unions, get that final approval. So before January, we'll get that done to just make sure that we're addressing that concern. And it has brought up multiple times. So.
Yeah. Just so we're clear, you're an example. Give me an example, because you gave me a good one yesterday. That's why I'm asking. Give me an example of when someone would be in what appears to be the same tier, but have the minimum, the middle, or the max.
Well, if you're looking at police
Compensation-wise.
lieutenant, that's up there, you'll see that they have they have 3 tiers. They're going to be 3 tiers. So tier 1 is 0 to 3 years at 104, and now they'll be moving to tier 1 at 107, 628. So the year starts, year ends are the same, but you'll see that they'll laterally move over to tier 1. So that's an example right there. If I could show.
What about a first fire deputy chief on further down in,
First fire deputy chief.
and that's not it either. Let's see. Okay, let me look through my packet and I'll find it.
Unless, go back to police. The police.
Okay, I think, no, that's not it either. At the top, it says Atlanta Fire Rescue Department tier structure. And,
We can use this
okay,
one
we can use
or
that.
fine.
Yes, we can
Okay.
use that as well.
I just want to go through quickly, Councilmember, if I can. Miranda gave so many examples over the last couple of weeks, but I think I remember the one that you're referring to.
Right.
So say, for instance, if you are a police officer senior, and you have been a police officer senior for some time, so let's say you're at tier 8 at $92,764 for a police officer senior. And then you get a promotion to a police sergeant. Of course, the first tier is at 93, but you would go to 97 because you would either go to the first tier or the next tier, which gives you a minimum of 5% increase. That was one. The other one was actually with the deputy chiefs. So
Correct.
if
This
you-
is the slide
this is the
that I'm
slide.
on right here.
So if you were a deputy chief and you were already at 150, you would not go down, you would go to the mid, which would be 164, instead of going to the minimum. So that's an example of making sure that there is an increase as you move forward.
Okay, and so tell me, how are we going to measure, say you're not coming from, you're not going from the current, let's talk about a new hire that's coming in. I don't know. A lateral hire.
A lateral hire in
How would you decide if they were minimum? And this is what I'm saying.
Minimum, mid, or max,
This
yes.
is what I'm saying. We have to actually spell out over the next couple months, how do you decide what's minimum, medium, and maximum? And that I want to give you plenty of time to do. I'm just saying, I know that this is going to be a question because I would think that we'll have some parameters in place to decide, how,
Yes, ma'am.
where a person fits.
Yes, ma'am. And as Ms. Vincent stated, that was one of the questions that came up from the police union representatives, which also goes to fire as well when we met with them. And the chiefs who were in the room, we make sure chiefs were in the room with the unions for the meetings. They have already started to try to figure out what does that policy look like, and they'll work with the unions because they meet with their unions once a month at a minimum. And so we wanted them to kind of work together to try to figure out what that is. Some of them have already asked Ms. Vincent, maybe we'll look at the hybrid parity study that we're using for general fund employees because that looks at your years of service as well as your years of service in the current, in the class that you're going to. So they are working on that jointly, and we look forward to, they know they have to have a recommendation and a policy in place prior to implementation in January.
That's right, because, as a city, and we talked about this yesterday, we don't want to make it look like, I want Collier Overstreet to have the maximum because she's really nice. And, Bakhtiari is going to be at the minimum. We don't want to do that. So I think that a little more definition is required, and so I just wanted to make sure that we're addressing that out loud so that we are. I just want to make sure that we're addressing that out loud so that they know that this is top of mind for us as well. Okay? And I think that's it for me, actually. Yes, thank you.
All right, Councilmember Baxiari.
On our A game today. Thank you. I apparently I'm going to make even less than I make now. So I had a quick question about just a couple. First, I wanted to say thank you all and wanted to just like really commend HR. Y'all have the resiliency and the consistency and everything y'all are doing is really fantastic. So thank you. Ms. Weeks, thank you. Interim Commissioner Blackburn, thank you. And to the whole team. And one thing, I just had a couple of questions. One, I know I just learned about this, and so I had follow up. Are we factoring anything around recapture? Because I know that there are some once folks are recaptured, and then obviously if they've been here for a while, pay increases or anything like of that nature.
So the recaptures were not included in the study.
That could be something I could follow up with outside to
Correct.
get additional info. Okay. And then I was curious also, my understanding was if job descriptions are changed, there could also be a loss of union protection for people who are, is there any chance of that?
No.
Or like any losing of any union classification, or they could be,
No.
there was concerns that if there was a change in description that could somehow alter. And I wanted to just set that, go ahead, Ms. Robinson.
Good afternoon, Amber A. Robinson, City of Atlanta Department of Law. Union eligibility is not a function of city law. That is a determination of the individual unions. I believe what is being discussed is whether or not an employee has a property interest in their job and therefore is given rights to not have an adverse employment action taken against them absent notice and due process. That is somewhat determined by whether or not you are a particular grade or not. It's currently below grade 19, 18 and below. However, that's not entirely determinative. There are other things such as the department that you work for and some of your job functioning that can make a determination as to whether or not you have those property interest rights to your job, i.e. a right to a civil service board hearing and so forth.
Got it. And so I hear all of that. So the fear of any fears about a job description changing that could move someone without their permission out of union protection or classification is not a thing.
Well, it's just union protection is not something
term.
that the city makes any determination in regards. So we don't set the eligibility for union membership. It is the unions that set that. We don't have any. Yeah.
And also, I want to point out, the new job descriptions were based on the feedback we got from the JATs that the employees filled out. And plus, they took the information from the current job descriptions. So they're not going to be drastic changes from the new one to the old one. Just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. And that's, yes, and that's all I wanted was for it to be cleared and stated on the record.
Hang on a second, though. But you said something that caught my ear, is that there is a potential, it's possible that a job description change could impact the ability to then, and the right to be heard by civil service, right? That is possible.
Well, I mean, I've heard the statements that have been made by leadership today saying that they don't have any intention of doing that, and that's what they're going to be working out with, making a determination that you look at all of the current job functioning and make sure that the equivalent new grade meets the old grade so that there's no actual change. So that's what they have said that they are doing, and if that's done, then that wouldn't happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. No, appreciate it. Thank you. And then my last question, actually, the COO inspired, because we were talking about, well, first I want to commend COO because I actually heard from employees that she actually came out to some of the warehouses to speak with them about things like this, which I greatly admire and appreciate. And so I was also curious because one of the things you brought up was the education component and some of the lack of awareness. And so I thought that was very telling, and first wanted to state that you did that and thank you. And to also ask, to the point that of what you discovered, can we do any, are we factoring in outreach, education, all of those pieces and making sure, because I also noticed that in our pension discussion, there were a lot of employees here that were also very confused. And so how we are communicating this to our city employees to ensure that we're meeting them where they are so they have an understanding of what's going on and wanted to understand the plan around that.
Right, so the plan is we have the FAQs, we're sending out the employee letters. I'll also be working with the HRBPs to do on-site visits to answer any questions employees have, because we really want to make sure that employees fully understand what the changes are. So that's the plan with the HRBPs, to do meetings with the departments in person, just to make sure that we're there with them to explain what these changes are.
If there is any chance, and thank you for that, if there's any chance that you could, if there's like a resource list that could also be given to council of the best way to direct employees when they ask those questions, so that we're not just saying, that we're not just giving them to somebody that may not be their purview at all, and to whatever we can know who's in charge of what, so that we can direct them without bogging down, say, our interim commissioner or COO with connecting them with who they need to be,
Right.
so that we have a better understanding of.
We also are working on a hotline number.
Okay.
So that'll be coming soon. We also have the Class and Comp Q&A email box. So that's another avenue that employees can reach out to me and my team if they have any questions. But essentially, yes, we will be doing in-person on-site visits, so.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate the time, and those are all my questions.
All right, anybody else with anything? All right, I will make the motion to approve on substitute, seconded by Hillis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. Vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved on substitute. Again, thank you for please thank the entire team. I mean, this was a Herculean lift. And now we go into implementation, and I look forward to the rollout. COO Burks, you have the
Yes,
floor.
no, I just want to thank you all again for the work that you have put into this as well, and the patience that you all have displayed as we went through this very thorough process. I can't thank the staff enough for the work that they have done, and that is pretty much almost every department. You know, HR definitely took the lead, but the support of finance, even procurement to get the RFP out, just every department that played a role in getting us to here where we are today. And I will say that you can get a commitment from me as well as the mayor that we will do everything in our power to communicate this appropriately to our staff, knowing that, you know, we're all human. There may be some hiccups here and there, but we're going to be open and receptive to the feedback. If we've made a misstep on one person when they get their letter and don't understand it, we're going to make sure we have a process in place. But I just wanted to say thank you to you all and the entire team for all of the work that has gone forth to get us to this point. Our employees deserve it, and we are more than happy to implement it on their behalf.
It's a nice position for y'all to be in, to be delivering what should be very positive news to everybody. I mean, again, if we total it up, it's $20 million of salary investment on top of $20 million of pension investment. And so, yeah, go forth and prosper. So, okay, with that, we're going to, again, conclude that item. And then we've got 2 items that we need to pull up because of the CFO schedule. First item is number 5, which is 24-0-1385. Ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to amend the Atlanta City Code, Part 2, Code of Ordinances, General Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 9, Finance, to provide for or update provisions relating to account information refunds and contingency funds, to provide authority for the write-off of uncollectible accounts receivable, and to repeal Ordinance 90-01324, to provide authority to the mayor and the chief financial officer to enter into agreements for debt collections, to delegate authority to the chief financial officer to declare an official intent on behalf of the city to allow the city to reimburse itself with proceeds of an obligation and for other purposes. Mr. Moses, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Robert Moses, Intergovernmental Affairs Director, Department of Finance. And thank you for your consideration in moving these 2 items up on the agenda. This first paper does 6 things to amend the Finance Code. The first thing that is dealt with is the ability of the CFO to make amendments to account numbers and to create account numbers. From time to time, we need to make amendments to the names of accounts, administrative things of that nature. This just confirms his ability to do that under the existing provisions of the code. Importantly, consistent with our policy, we will always come to council to create new funds. The second thing, it deals with refunds. At present, we need council approval for refunds that exceed $5,000. These changes will increase that minimum to $10,000. This is seen as an improvement for customer service by allowing customers to be able to receive their refunds in a more timely fashion. The third item relates to uncollectible accounts receivable. This is really a codification of the existing ordinance that's in place. What it does is it codifies the requirement that, or it codifies the authority of the CFO to write off uncollectible amounts less than $10,000. But importantly, what it also does is that it addresses what happens to things over $10,000, and that is that we need to come to council for approval for those. So it just codifies that requirement. The fourth item is debt collection services. This provision is a new provision which would allow the CFO to contract with service providers in the same manner as he has authority to contract with financial advisors for debt collection services. There are three important guardrails on this power. The first is it only applies to debts that have actually been written off and gone through the write-off process in the manner that I just described. The second thing is it places limitations on the amount of debt that is able to be collected. There is a minimum, and it also sets minimum requirements on the fees that can be taken out of those debts, consistent with market requirements. The second last amendment that is made is to the investment banking and treasury services provisions. What we're doing here is clarifying that the investment banking service provider provisions, which allow the CFO to enter into agreements with investment banking services, also includes treasury services. And that is for things like banking and specialised treasury services to deal with funds management, etc. And the final thing is it inserts a provision into the code that will allow the CFO to declare the official intent of the city to reimburse itself from bond proceeds. Council might be aware that from time to time we come to council to have official intent declared. The federal regulations allow that function to be delegated to an officer at the city. Our proposal is to delegate that function to the CFO. The reason for this is that oftentimes we need to commence work, say on a refit of existing buildings, things of that nature, and it needs to start in a timely way. And so if the CFO is allowed to sign that official intent, the clock starts earlier for us to be able to reimburse ourselves from a future bond issuance. Importantly, this provision does not prevent the council from exercising this function. It just gives the CFO the additional authority to be able to sign that certificate. So I'm happy to answer any questions on that paper.
All right, questions for Mr. Moses? I actually have one. So the CFO refunds, I mean, increasing that amount from 5 to 10, essentially it takes a little bit of the burden off of the other. Right now you have to do it via legislation, but this would kind of take that off, a little bit of that off our plate, right?
That's correct. So it'll just kind of cut down on the red tape in having to process the legislation.
Okay. And then, yeah, actually, that was really the key question I had. I don't really have any objections to try and give a little more flexibility on this and expediency, because I think we certainly all have constituents that have gotten tied up in the process, and it's unnecessarily so, quite frankly. Other questions or comments for finance? There's a motion from Winston to approve, seconded by Hillis. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved. Next item is 24-01386, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to amend the Atlanta City Code Part 2, Code of Ordinances, General Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 6, Departments, Division 2, Department of Finance, to update provisions relating to offices within the Department of Finance, and to make amendments for operational matters and for other purposes. Mr. Moses.
Thank you. Robert Moses, Intergovernmental Affairs Director, Department of Finance. This paper is really a tidy-up paper that deals with internal structure of the Department of Finance. It does two things mainly. The first thing is it updates training requirements for certain Treasury officials. And the second thing it does is it amends the office structure of the department to take into account abolishments and references and duplications, etc.
All right, questions for Mr. Moses or the department? Seeing none. Motion from Winston, second by Hillis. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Moses. All right, we're going to return to our regularly scheduled programming and go back up to presentations, reports, and updates. We have the Department of Customer Service quarterly update. There she is. And I will turn it over to Ms. Good for her report.
Happy Wednesday and good afternoon. So today, I'm Commissioner Maisha Good. Today I will give you a quarterly update from April to June of 2024 of our metrics and also provide you a path forward, just some general highlights as well. So this first slide, this is our service areas or service support areas. What has changed on this slide is that our operating hours has changed from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. to midnight. Also, we've added another multi-channel access, so now we have the ability to do live agent chat. Some operational highlights. First is our social media team. They are continuing to garner followers, so we've gained over 2,000 followers through engaging content, averaging over 650 new followers per month. Our social media surveys, we had 95% respondents stated they were satisfied with the overall experience using our social media channels. They've handled over 1,134 messages and submitted 1,055 cases via Facebook, X, Instagram, Nextdoor, SeeClick, Fix, and Reddit, which are some of our more popular social media channels. We are continuing the Make the Right Call campaign. So this is a 911 versus 311 campaign. And since activating this on our IVR, we've seen a change with the average speed of answer for 911. So they went from 45 seconds to as low as 4 seconds. And we're continuing to inform the citizens with creative content by educating them online. Our community fairs, which is where we're being visible at MPU meetings, community meetings, and events. We've attended 79 MPU meetings during this time frame, and that number continues to increase. Our training team, we have hosted 3 new hires training classes. One was held in April, a second in July, and the third was in August. We net 24 employees from those 3 classes, and our next training classes are scheduled for September 26th and November 21st. So we're forecasting to add about 36 new employees to our workforce. So all job opportunities are posted on atlantaj.gov under HR. We've also executed cross-training initiatives to close the skill gaps, provide additional capacity, and improve the customer experience. So what we're doing here is ensuring that all agents can answer any call that comes through the call center. Next, our call center operations, our average goal is 80% of the calls answered in 60 seconds. We have a combined data of 83%. And what we're averaging in this area are our operations 311, where you see 82%, supportive services, which supports PAD and housing initiatives at 99%, and our live agent chat at 94%. We did launch the live agent chat in April. What we've seen with this functionality, it enables customers to transition from a chatbot to a live agent without having to restart this journey. And I want to give a shout out to AIM, who's always been by our side with these new initiatives we're rolling out. This became available as well as an option for customers to submit cases from 7 a.m. to midnight, Monday through Friday. On July 1st, we did extend our service delivery hours, and what we've seen since then, we've opened 878 cases through all channels and handled 463 calls during this extended hours time. Our human resources, what we've seen here is that we have, as of July 31st, 133. This number has increased because of the new personnel paper, so we're about 156 as of today. But during this time frame, we filled 107 positions. That is an increase from the last time I reported out to you, which we had 98. Our field rate is 80%. Our total vacant positions during this time is 26%, and we're still averaging that with a total vacancy rate at 20%. When I last met with you or had my presentation, we were at 26%, so that number has decreased. We have seen some attrition. So in third quarter, we had 6 employees separated. We had an average number of employees during the month of about 107, and we had a 5.7% attrition rate, or turnover rate. And what we've seen were some factors, which was discussed here today: competitive salary rates challenges, and then secondly, performance management issues were a concern during this time. Our call volume data for ATL 311, we handled or presented first 76,402 calls. We were able to handle 74,119 before they were abandoned. And these abandonments are typically because the customer did not want to hold, or maybe they used another channel for assistance, or just didn't have the time. But nonetheless, our service levels were at 82%, and our average handle time was 7 minutes and 29 seconds, and this is the average time it takes to complete a call from start to finish. And then secondly, our average speed of answer is at 34 seconds, so as you see here, there was no long hold times. For supportive services, again, which supports PAD and housing initiatives, they presented or were able to handle 3,055 calls. They were presented with 3,079 calls, 24 calls abandoned, and their service level was at 99%. They did have an average handle time at 4 minutes and 40 seconds, and their average speed of answer was 7 seconds. So our top 5 cases from all channels. These channels are typically calls, live agent, mobile app, social media, portal, email, and fax. So what you saw here, I'm going to only present to you the top 2 or 3 in each of these areas, and these are our high volume departments that we get the most cases from, is what I'm referencing. But in DWM, their top 3 was around account information for active water and sewer accounts, watershed case status inquiries, and property owner or renter requests to establish new water and sewer. For code enforcement, what we saw was junk trash and debris on private property, code enforcement overgrowth, code enforcement general information was their top 3. For DPW, their top 2 was bulk collection requests and damaged garbage cart replacement. Their third was missed residential garbage. For finance, what we saw was business license renewal and registering a new business came in at number 2. Municipal court, they had top 3. I failed to appear at court, which is number 1. When is my court date and time? And that was followed by how much is my court fine and how do I pay? For ATL potholes was number 1. Number 2 was non-emergency traffic signal repair, and with supportive services that support housing and PAD initiatives, their top 2 calls were around housing health center and policing alternatives and diversion initiatives. We did add a top services here for our chatbot and IVR, and what we saw through these channels are code enforcement overgrown grass, damaged garbage cart replacement, and the third was watershed with reporting a leaking or broken water meter. For fulfillment cases by SLA, here what we're seeing is the cases that are close within the SLA that's allotted with our knowledge articles. So the Public Works, Watershed, Finance, Municipal Court, and Constituent Services, which we added, they all met their percentage of cases close within the service level agreement with the knowledge article that we have in our system. ADOT and Parks and Rec, they were not able to meet the SLA. However, they have put in place mitigation plans to ensure moving forward that those cases are resolved in a timely fashion. Back office stats. This team handles all things related to mobile, phone, fax, email, and those other things I noted earlier. Their top cases were coming for APD, code enforcement, watershed, public works, ATL, Don, and finance as the last for their tops. But they were coming through email, and then second by web, chatbot, and then mobile app followed. Our escalation cases, and these are cases sometimes that I receive from some of you, but cases that are coming in from our community or from our citizens when their case is not met, their SLAs are not met. So what we're seeing here is that most of the cases are coming in for public works at 51%, ADOT at 44%. We processed during this time frame over 575 escalations, with the highest volume being in May. And it's also effective as of yesterday. Each council member received a new dashboard to display our monthly metrics. So I see some heads nodding, so I'm glad you all had the opportunity to look at it. And so this is real-time data that you're getting, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And then next, our post-call survey and social media results. We have seen an increase of 42% with our surveys. So we're very excited that our citizens are being engaging with us, providing this feedback because it helps us to serve them better. So what we're seeing here is that they strongly agree our IVR is easy to use. Their overall experience is very satisfied. They think our agents are friendly and knowledgeable, and they will likely to recommend us. So we're happy to hear that. And during this time, I do want to thank the team for all their hard work, dedication, and commitment to serving our customers. So thank you, ATL 311. And then our next slide, technology enhancements. So you all have been hearing me for months saying we got new technology. So I'm happy to say, if you've been in the atrium, I'm sure you have, we have a new kiosk out there. That new kiosk is by the customer service desk. We rolled it out last Thursday, and this kiosk will provide general information. In phase 2, we will have the ability to have case submission. So please stop by and visit Ava, that's our avatar's name, when you have an opportunity. And then also
Not to be confused with Atlanta Victims Assistance.
No, definitely not, no. Also, we are rolling out our new CRM. Councilmember One, I know you've been asking me about this CRM for a while, but we are rolling it out October, y'all. So end of October, we'll have a new CRM, new mobile app, and new website. So we will have the opportunity to automate our social media and engagement. So they will be adding into our CRM. But we're very excited about this project. We have been working hard with AIM and so many our top volume departments. They've been engaged as well. So this is truly a group effort. And we will definitely engage you very soon, your teams, to partake in our community engagement and testing as well. We also updated our current mobile app. We've added the GIS, and I'm sad to see Councilmember Hillis has had to step away, but this is something he wanted for some time, is that pin drop. So that was finally added in. And then we also enhanced our chatbot recently. So the chatbot will now give, not saying that it didn't before, but it gives even better quality of responses, and it's more enhanced by our AI interaction. So what's next to come for us? We're going to roll out a new skills testing software so we can ensure we have quality candidates onboarding. We are also going to implement a new analytics for our workforce management team, and also a chatbot channel for our team as well. And lastly, we will work towards adding text messages. So that concludes my report. At this time, are there any questions?
All right, Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Thank you. Commissioner, good to see you always.
Thank you, same here.
And yes, I did get the new dashboard. Your team was great at sending that over and communicating and updating. And I was curious, will this have a breakdown by district? I know that was something we had an issue, not district. A break will include the address. That was something I realized we weren't getting in the old dashboard, was we weren't getting the actual address of the location.
No, this phase 1 does not have addresses, but we'll work towards adding that as well. But we'll ensure to provide that to you on a monthly basis.
You always do, so thank you.
You're welcome.
And I was also curious, so this year, though, you all did get a departmental budget.
Yes, we
Am I
did.
to understand this was the first time that y'all did actually receive your own budget and where other departments weren't paying in?
So we still have a split funded budget.
Okay.
So as it stands today, our budget is supported by general fund, public works, and watershed. So we're good with the budget. This is a great budget, and I feel that the administration has ensured that we are in a good place.
And you all are still taking all of the low priority calls for, no, okay, and that is, and I'm guessing that there obviously is training that's going into that.
Are you talking about for 911?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So we still are taking their non-emergency calls around panhandling, items
HMIS
like
certified,
that.
yeah.
Yes, so we're doing all that, and we're still HMIS certified as well. And we'll also be working with grants to take on their HOPWA calls.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyone who doesn't know, that means that all the people that, every person that does our customer service calls that is on the call or over text has the ability to do placement of anyone in our unsheltered population that is in our HMIS system. They're able to refer them for housing, which is a
correct.
very big deal. So the other question I also had was, with the update that you said is occurring in October, will that help with the, I think you already discussed this, but I wanted to reiterate it again because I'm very excited if this is true. When tickets are closed out, which obviously a lot of our constituents don't know, we've tried saying this, and I want to also say to everyone watching, this is not the fault of 311. It is a long-time investment to do this, but in order to close out a ticket, when you close out a ticket after you have then submitted it because you're moving it to watershed management or to public works or to ATL DOT,
Yeah.
and it has to close out, but it doesn't notify the constituent while it's closed out because they don't know it's being open in the system of the
Yes.
of that department. This will help with kind of the tracking and the closed loop system.
That's correct. So we have some major systems that would be integrated, like Acela, for instance, that code enforcement uses. Encuesta, Watershed uses that. And we're also going to integrate City Works that Watershed is onboarding. So those are just a number of integrations that would take place that will help close that customer feedback loop. Also, we're going to build in some workflows so customers can see where the case is from beginning to end. And so with those integrations, it'll be a seamless process and there will be no more premature closures.
Wonderful. That is great. And if somebody were to submit again do two submissions for the same address or multiple submissions because they don't understand, would that still cancel out, or this would also prevent that from happening because you're tracking it differently?
Yes, and it would be added to the parent case, right? So we know that there would be some repeat callers, but it would not cancel out the parent. It'll just add to, right? And so that would be some great information that we would have from all the system integrations, but also it would be, you won't have to worry about that.
Understood.
Yeah.
And on like retention and everything else with your folks, y'all are doing well?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we had about 6 or so, and we did have a few that left recently. Either, maybe they transferred to another department or had just a better opportunity. But, we're happy that ATL 311 is their first stop. I mean, I think if they move across the city, they have been taught a gamut of helpful information. So I feel confident that they would do well wherever they are. So I think we're in a good place, but we are having a number of onboarding sessions that are happening, and we will continue that because we understand that we are in an operation that is a call center, and that turnover happens quite frequently.
I would imagine so. And thank you. And I'm guessing also we'll probably discuss additional updates and what y'all will be doing when the diversion center opens, because I'm certain that will also be factored into 311.
That will be. We're looking forward to that. Yeah.
Well, thank you as always. And always thank Ms. Corey, Ms. Barry, and the rest of the team for me for always getting me the information. I appreciate y'all.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Councilmember Hillis.
Thank you, Vice Chair Juan. Thank you for the update, Commissioner Good, and watched some of the presentation when I was in my office.
You're welcome.
Speaking of the CRM replacement, is this another issue that I brought up, is the feedback that either we or our constituents receive when they submit. It's nowhere near what it used to be, where they got the details of the case, the SLA date or number of days. Will that reincorporate that? When
Yes,
the
sir, that will be
CRM rolls out?
incorporated. Yes, that will be. So that will be an added feature along with that workflow I discussed. So it'll be way more detailed information. And then they will have the ability to just see it, right? When they submit that case, they'll still get an email notification or some type of update. And also we have in the back end to where departments will also get reminders when things are getting close to being reached or breached. The SLA is going to be breached. So I think we have some notifications or parameters in place that will help not only 311, but also the department and the customer in knowing where the case is.
And will, I know it caused some hiccups and for the app to be down for some time when we rolled out the current CRM. Have we made sure that this new CRM is totally integrated in either the current app, or will there be a new app that rolls out, or how is that being handled?
Yeah, so we actually talked about this recently. So the new app will roll out with the CRM. There should not be any downtime. AIM is working with the vendors to ensure there's no downtime between the transition, and if it is, it would be very minimal disruption. So if it happens, we'll ensure that we have language out all over social media and our portals directing customers on how to submit cases. But it should be very minimal disruption.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions, comments? I do want to thank you. I wanted to thank you for all the work. I mean, I had the pleasure of actually forwarding y'all a real high compliment from one of my constituents the other day for your responsiveness. To Councilmember Bakhtiari's point, I mean, as we can continue to tighten the closed out 311, that issue when they're not complete, but I think if you just increase communication to those submitting them, that solves 95% of that issue. So
I agree. I agree. Thank you all for your feedback. Have a good one.
all right, thank you, Commissioner. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and continue on our agenda. Next item up are ordinances for first reading. Ms. Kempson-Wright, if you could sound the three items for us.
Item 1 is 24-014-17, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor, his designee, to waive the competitive source selection provisions contained in Section 21187 of Article 10 of the Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, as well as any other conflicting code provisions, to execute the Fourth Amendment to Cooperative Purchasing Agreement FC 8871 T-Mobile USA Incorporated Wireless Voice Data Services with T-Mobile USA Incorporated on behalf of the Department of the Atlanta Information Management to add a term on a month-to-month basis for a period not to exceed 6 months commencing July 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, and to add funding in an amount not to exceed $515,287.50. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein. Item number 2 is 24-014-18, an ordinance authorizing the mayor, his designee, to waive the competitive source selection provisions contained in Section 21187 of Article 10 Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, as well as any other conflicting code provisions, to execute the Fourth Amendment to Cooperative Purchasing Agreement FC 9726 Wireless Communication Devices, Voice and Data Services with Verizon Wireless Services, LLC, on behalf of the Department of Atlanta Information Management on a month-to-month basis, not to exceed 6 months commencing July 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, and to add funding in an amount not to exceed $2,202,619.55. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein. And item number 3 is 24-014-19, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the Capital Finance Fund budget and the fiscal year 2025 Department of City Planning General Fund budget by transferring an amount not to exceed $324,000.00 from the OOB Technology Optimization Capital Finance Fund to the fiscal year 2025 Department of City Planning General Fund to fund contractual obligations and equipment purchases and for other purposes.
All right, thank you, and those will be back before us when Mr. Shook is back with us next time. So next up are ordinances for second reading. 24-013-71. There is a substitute for this in your packets that does change the caption. I will read that in and make the motion to bring it forward. It's an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond, as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, to waive Chapter 2, Article 9, Division 1, Section 2-910, grant applications, and to ratify the City of Atlanta's submission of an application on behalf of the Mayor's Office of Emergency Preparedness to apply for and to accept an award for the fiscal year 2023 Emergency Operations Center Program grant from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, in an amount not to exceed $248,000.00 to be utilized for the City of Atlanta Emergency Operations Center to authorize the mayor or his designee to execute any necessary agreements to accept the award, which requires matching funds in an amount not to exceed $82,667.00, to amend the fiscal year 2025 intergovernmental budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in an amount not to exceed $248,000.00. All funds should be charged to and paid from the fund and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Hey, before I make the motion, so the correction in the caption was to amend the fiscal year 2025 intergovernmental budget, but up at the bottom, up at the top, it still references fiscal year 2023. Is that correct? Or should they both be 2025?
Robert Moses, Department of Finance. So the 2023 reference is to the federal government's grant year.
Okay. So
The 2025 references to amending our budget year.
All right, so I'll make the motion to bring the substitute forward. Can I get a second, please? Second by Winston. Let's open the vote to bring the substitute forward.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The substitute is before us. Any questions on this? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve on substitute. Seconded by Hillis. Let's open the vote.
Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. Item is approved on substitute. We've already dispensed with 5 and 6. That takes us to 7. And there is a substitute here as well that I don't believe changes the caption.
No.
No, it does not. It just amends the legislation to update the first binding. No, that's not it either. It just updates all the account numbers and amounts. So it's an ordinance by Councilmember Alex Wana, substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the transfer of funds from various Atlanta City Council carry-forward accounts to the appropriate distribution account to replenish funds for fiscal year 2025 and for other purposes. I'll move to bring the substitute forward. Seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. Substitute is before us. I'll move to approve on substitute. Seconded by Winston. Let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. Item is approved on substitute. Next item, 24O-1396, an ordinance by Councilmember Alex Wan to amend Chapter 2, Administration, Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code, Division 7, Contract Clauses and their Administration, Section 2-1292, Emergencies resulting in potential increased costs, contract modifications, and change orders, to clarify that regardless of whether the total cumulative cost of any contract modifications or change orders shall or shall not exceed 10% of the total, not to exceed costs originally authorized for the contract, where any modification, change order, or other amendment to the contract is not within the scope of the contract originally authorized, in any way expands the scope of the contract originally authorized, that such modifications, change orders, or other amendments are properly subject to the source selection methods of the procurement code and for other purposes. Ms. Robinson, if I could just have you briefly discuss this, that would be great, please.
Amber A. Robinson, City of Atlanta, Department of Law. Currently, any sort of purchase or service purchase or goods purchase is subject to the procurement code in one way or the other. We have micro purchases, small purchases, purchases that require RFPs, requests for bid, that sort of thing. So in the procurement code spells out when those source selection processes should occur. When going through a solicitation, request for bid, request for proposal, the user agency working with the Department of Procurement works to create a scope of work, which is included in the package that potential contractors bid on. that is publicly advertised and so forth. Also, there are situations where a sole source is awarded pursuant to a particular scope of work and special procurements and so forth. Within the procurement code, the scope of work that is actually assigned and awarded is determined early on in the process at the time of the contract award. At the time of the contract award, it's also determined whether or not the contract is to have renewals, how many renewals, and so forth. And then by resolution, the council will approve, if it's over 100,000 and certain other circumstances, the execution of the contract awarded. Once that is done, if there's a desire to expand the scope from the contract that was originally awarded, such that it's beyond what was publicly bid on and what the council awarded and so forth at the beginning of the process, that would require currently a going back through that source selection process. Alternatively, that scope can be expanded with the approval of council through an ordinance to waive those source selection requirements of the procurement code in order to award that expanded scope of service. That is the current law because the use of the procurement code source selection methods is required regarding any sort of purchase unless the code has been waived. This amendment to the procurement code in 2-1292 to add a new subsection E simply states and codifies what I've just stated, that to expand, to make an amendment or modification to a contract in a manner which would expand the scope as originally awarded is subject to the source selection provisions of the procurement code. So insofar as there has been confusion in regards to at what point would you need to waive the code versus what point can you just ask for an amendment or a modification pursuant to a resolution? This seeks to clarify that.
So I appreciate this. Basically clears up that whole question we've been having about resolution versus ordinance, when we need to waive or not. It really takes the 10% threshold out. 10% threshold is really just a symptom. It's not really the cause. And you know, whenever this comes up, you just need to go look at the scope of the original RFP, compare it to what you're trying to do today, and determine whether there's been an expansion of scope. Litmus test, expansion of scope, waive the code, ordinance, boom. So I'll make the motion to approve, seconded by Hillis. Are there any questions for law on this? All right, let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved. Colleagues, without objection, I'm going to take items 9, 10, 14, 15, and 16 together as they're all council carry forward donations. First item is 24-0-1397, an ordinance by council members Liliana Bakhtiari and Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $10,000.00 to the Wild Center to support educational programs, events, and green spaces pursuant to Section 6306 of the City of Atlanta Charter and for other purposes. 24-0-1401, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $12,000.00 from the District 9 carry forward account to the West Side Howell Mill Community Improvement District to support the West Side Stride pursuant to Section 6306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter and for other purposes. I'm going to skip 14 because we do need to substitute that. 15 is 24-0-1409, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $10,000.00 to Solomon's Temple to support their efforts to house Atlanta's unsheltered women, children, and families pursuant to Section 6306 of the City of Atlanta Charter and for other purposes. And 24-0-1410, ordinance by council members Westmoreland, Hillis, Collier Overstreet, Dozier, Wan, Boone, Winston, Bakhtiari, and Faroki authorizing donation in an amount not to exceed $29,500.00 to the Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta pursuant to Section 6306 of the City of Atlanta Charter to support LGBTQ outreach and the Mayor's Youth Scholarship Program and for other purposes. I'll move approval on those 4 items. Seconded by Collier Overstreet. Let's open the vote, please.
Mr. Chair, before we take the vote, item number 9 required an amendment, 1397.
Okay, so let's
So
take
if you
that
can
one out.
just,
Yeah. So it's just 1401, 1409, and 1410.
10, 15, 16.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Good catch.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries on those items. So let's go back to 240137. I'll make a motion to amend to update the first binding clause to correct the recipient. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote to amend.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
Amended papers before us. I'll move to approve as amended. Seconded by Winston. Let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved as amended. Since I've already read I need to reread the caption of 24014008 because the substitute changes that. It is an ordinance by council members Westmoreland and Juan and Bakhtiari, actually. It's substituted by Finance Executive Committee authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $7,500.00 to Land Illegal pursuant to Section 6306 of the City of Atlanta Charter and for other purposes. Move to bring it forward. It just changes the amount. Seconded by Winston. Let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Substitute is before us. I'll move to approve on substitute, and y'all can add Councilmember Bakhtiari's name back into the caption. That was the original intent.
Okay.
Please. Okay. Seconded by Winston. Let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. Item is approved on substitute. We're back to 11, which is 24014003. It's an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet authorizing the City of Atlanta on behalf of the Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs to accept a donation of up to $75,000.00 from Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta to support public art improvements to Folk Art Park, the 5 Points Monument, and lighting at the Carnegie Pavilion to be deposited into account numbers listed, to authorize the transfer of such funds to the Public Art Trust following receipt thereof and for other related purposes. Councilmember, you want to make the motion? Motion from Councilmember Overstreet, seconded by Hillis. Let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. Item is approved. 24014005. Ordinance by council members Matt Westmoreland and Howard Shook to waive Chapter 2, Article 9, Division 1, Section 2-910 grant applications to retroactively authorize and ratify the City of Atlanta's submission on behalf of the Mayor's Office of International and Immigrant Affairs of an application for the fiscal year 2023 case management pilot program for the purpose of providing comprehensive case management services to non-detained non-citizens known to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in the City of Atlanta in an amount not to exceed $7 million and 0 cents, authorizing the mayor or his designee to accept said grant and to execute any necessary grant agreements and for other purposes. Any questions? I'll move approval. Seconded by Winston. Let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. Item is approved. Next item, 24014006, an ordinance by council members Matt Westmoreland and Howard Shook authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise the second renewal option for a contract number listed, ATL Cloud Implementation and Post-Implementation Support Services with Deloitte Consulting LLP on behalf of the Department of Finance for a term of 1 year effective from September 7, 2024 through September 6, 2025, in an amount not to exceed $6,805,600.00. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account number listed herein. To authorize the chief financial officer to make any budget amendments, to undertake any operating transfers, or take other actions necessary to enable the transfer of said funds to the accounts listed herein and for other purposes. Any questions for the administration on this? I'll move approval. Seconded by Hillis. Let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved. That takes us to resolutions. Item 17 is 24R3834. It's a resolution by Councilmember Alex Wan to amend Resolution 24R3543, adopted by the Atlanta City Council on May 6, 2024, and approved by operation of law per City Charter Section 2403 on May 15, 2024, to correct the awardee name from Bill Gosling Outsourcing Corp. To Allied International Credit Corp., and to change the solicitation name from Number Listed Collection Support Services to the new Number Listed Collection Support Services and for other purposes. It's a correction paper. I'll move to approve, seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved. Next item is 24R3835, a resolution by council members Liliana Bakhtiari and Michael Julian Bond, authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute amendment number 1 to agreement number listed COVID-19 Emergency Welcoming Atlanta Grocery Delivery Services with Latino Community Fund on behalf of the Mayor's Office of International and Immigrant Affairs to add funds in an amount not to exceed $14,000.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account number listed herein and for other purposes. I understand that the department wants to file this paper, so I'm going to make a motion to file, seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item will be filed. All right, next item, 24R3836, a resolution by council members Liliana Bakhtiari and Michael Julian Bond, authorizing the mayor or his designee to accept a donation from 1913 LLC to the Atlanta City Council of goods, insulated grocery bags valued at approximately $7,500.00 to support various community events and for other purposes. Any motion from Juan, second by Winston. Let's open that vote, please. And the motion was to approve.
Vote is open. Will everyone please vote? Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved. All right, 24R3851. We have an amendment for that, but I'm going to read the caption. And it's a resolution by council members Matt Westmoreland and Howard Shook, authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute amendment number 1 to agreement number listed on behalf of the Mayor's Office of International and Immigrant Affairs to allocate additional funding to the agreement in an amount not to exceed $44,583.00 for the purposes of supporting the administrative closeout of the Emergency Food and Shelter Humanitarian Program. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account number listed herein and for other purposes. The amendment amends the legislation to update the amount and add the supplier name to the caption, which I did not read correctly. I'm sorry. So the correct amount should be $15,583. And the agent or company name is Cone Resnick LLP. So my fault on that. But I'll make a motion to amend. Seconded by Winston. Let's open the vote to amend with those changes, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is amended. I'll make the motion to approve as amended. Seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved as amended. All right, 24R3904. It's a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise the first renewal option for contract number listed, maintenance and services for E911, Premier One CAD, and Premier One Mobile with Motorola Solutions on behalf of the Department of Atlanta Information Management, Atlanta Police, Atlanta Fire Rescue, and Aviation for a term of 1 year effective from October 16, 2024 through October 15, 2025, in an amount not to exceed $900,337.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. It's just a renewal. I'll make a motion to approve. Seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed. Thank you. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved. All right, 24R 3905, resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to issue task order number 2 for RFP number listed, citywide architectural planning, design, engineering, construction phase services, Group A Small, with Praxis 3 and J.W. Robinson JV for construction manager services to oversee various Moving Atlanta Forward construction projects, new construction and renovations for the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department and the Atlanta Police Department on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management in an amount not to exceed $586,872.00. All work to be charged to and paid from accounts listed and for other purposes. All right, any questions for the department on this? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved. All right, next item, there is an amendment, but the caption does not change. So it's 24R 3906, resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute special procurement agreement number listed, CAD data sharing with Data Tech 911 on behalf of the Atlanta Police Department pursuant to Section 21191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for a term of 3 years with 2 one-year renewal options in an amount not to exceed $285,986.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. I'll make a motion to amend the legislation to include the special procurement designation memo, seconded by Councilmember Winston. Let's open the vote to amend, please.
Vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is amended. I will go ahead and make a motion to approve as amended. Question, seconded by Hillis. Quick question from Councilmember Winston.
Just curious about the data sharing. Who's it with? And
Sure. So Ryan Solis, Deputy Director for E911. The data sharing is a real-time CAD to disparate CAD sharing, and so the initiative is to connect digitally with Grady.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions or discussion? If not, we have a motion and a second from Hillis. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved as amended. I think this may be our last, regular resolution. 24R 3907, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute sole source agreement number listed, Tactical Aircraft Rescue Firefighting Driving Simulator at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Sounds like fun. With Rosenbauer, Minnesota LLC pursuant to Section 21191 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances on behalf of the Department of Aviation for initial term of 12 months with 1 one-year renewal option in an amount not to exceed $504,000.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Any questions for the administration? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve, seconded by Winston. Let's open the vote, please.
Vote is open.
Check that out.
Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved. All right, we do not have any dual referred, so that takes us to held papers, and we have a couple coming off. First one is 24O1099. There's a substitute that does change the caption, so I'll read it in, the new caption in and make the motion. It is substitute ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to amend Section 14626 of the Atlanta City Code to set the ad valorem tax rate for the general levy, bonded indebtedness levy, parks levy, education levy, special tax district levy, and the Atlanta Beltline Special Service District levy based on every $1,000 or part thereof of the value of all real and personal property, to provide that the tax rates established herein shall remain fixed until amended or repealed, to repeal ordinance number 24-0-1100, and for other purposes. I'll move to bring the substitute forward. Seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Substitute is before us. I'll move to approve on substitute. Let me get a second first. Second from Winston. I do have a question, though, and it's not related to this. I know this is the ad valorem. Whatever happened with Fulton County and their millage, and is that going to impact our the tax billing schedule and our collection window for the end of this year?
Lawrence Davis Jr., Revenue Chief for the Office of Revenue. I actually was going to tell you about that as I was speaking. But since you asked the question already, sir, they are scheduled to come back again August the 21st. And yes, sir, it will affect the collection timeframe for us. So we are monitoring the actions at the county at this present time.
So APS has already adopted their rate, correct?
Yes, sir. They have already adopted the rates. We've already publicized. APD already, APS had already publicized. They did vote on August the 12th. And we can move forward with this resolution for adoption on Monday because the information that we needed is minus Fulton County and DeKalb.
Yeah, so Fulton County, basically, the commissioners just reached an impasse and couldn't get an approval of any millage rate. And so, right, you said they're going to try again on the 21st.
On the 21st.
Which is, I'm just trying to get a time frame of what delay that, in terms of weeks. Is that a 2-week delay
Well,
so far?
yes, sir. It is so far. Typically, the starts collecting from October to December. It may be now a little bit later in October, but we are staying in contact with Fulton County.
But our solid waste bill should be going out because we've already approved that. And that was already always going to go out in advance of that.
That is a separate bill than the tax, property tax. Yes, sir.
Governing is fun. I'm sorry. All right, if there are no other questions, I did make the motion to approve on substitute, and then I think Hill seconded it. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Item is approved on substitute. Thank you, Chief Davis.
Thank you.
All right, we've taken care of the class and comp. That takes us to items 37, 38. Both have substitutes with revised captions. First one is 24R 3769, a resolution by Councilmember Howard Shook, as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to refund customers for overpayments to water and sewer accounts in the amount of $12,040.41. All funds should be charged to and paid from the fund department organization account number listed herein and for other purposes. And 24R 3770, a resolution by Councilmember Howard Shook, is substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the Commissioner of the Department of Watershed Management to adjust water and sewer service charges on certain customer accounts in accordance with Atlanta City Code section number listed in the amount of $378,251.50 and for other purposes. I'll move to bring both substitutes forward. Seconded by Hillis. Let's open that vote, please.
Vote is open. Vote is closed.
All right, 5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. Both substitutes are before us. I'll move to approve on substitute. Seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please, on both items.
Vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. Both items are approved on substitute. Ms. Kempson-Wright, I believe that takes care of our legislative items, correct?
That is correct.
All right, that takes us then, we have no walk-in, so that takes us to general remarks. All right, seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.